Hello, welcome to WCC Wednesday. Today I am joined by Annette from the Public Service Commission, and we are talking about Internet for All. Annette, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, so my name's Annette Smith, and I work for the Public Service Commission in Wisconsin, and that is the group that is responsible for internet and broadband across the state. I've been with them for just about a year, specifically working on the equity and the broadband projects. And so I'm really excited to be here talking to you and sharing more information.
So can you talk a little bit about that? I feel like broadband has been in the news in Wisconsin, and I know I've noticed it, but maybe it's because I've been in this work. And so if people haven't been paying attention, what's happening in Wisconsin around broadband?
Oh, so much. There is so much happening around access to the internet. And a lot of that, well, most of that work right now is coming out of the bipartisan infrastructure bill that passed about almost 2 years ago now. And that bill allocated just under $70 billion to connect everyone to the internet. So all of these underserved or not served areas of our country that we learned during COVID really have to be connected to survive. And so that money was allocated, and to get the money as a state so that we could start getting broadband out to these areas, the state had to write two plans. And so I'm helping to write the digital equity plan, and then there's a broadband equity plan, and the two plans must be aligned. And so then we'll submit those plans to the federal government. We'll get our money, which right now is just over $1 billion that has been allocated to us. And once the plan is approved, then we can start giving that money out to communities to build broadband in spaces that do not have it. So in the past, we've had some money from the state to do that. We don't have any money now from the state that was cut from the governor's budget, but we do have this $1 billion, billion plus, it's $1 billion plus coming to help us do this work. And so that's part of the reason you see it in the news. There is a governor's task force that recently submitted their report to the governor that said that, and they really have set the speeds, right? So they're saying 100/20 is the speed that means you're connected. So if you say live on a farm somewhere and you're connected, but your speed is 10/3, that's a true story, by the way. We have farms connected at 2/0, which is not real, right? We have a definition. And so that was released about 2 weeks ago from the governor's task force. So you've seen that in the news. So lots of stuff is happening because there's money, there's need, and there's will right now to get this work done.
So some of the like in this, I mean, $1 billion is so much money that my brain does not even comprehend. And then I think about like, how do you even begin to spend $1 billion? I mean, I'm sure I could, no, just kidding. But and so part of the work that is happening right now is making that plan and figuring out what happens. So what does that look like? How do you make a plan to spend $1 billion?
Well, it takes work. It takes a team of people, and it takes the community of Wisconsin, the people of Wisconsin, to help build a plan like that. We'll also say $1 billion is a lot of money. It will not connect everyone in our state. So there's still going to be this equity challenge, because even though it sounds like a lot, the places that are left in Wisconsin to connect, right? All the easy places are connected. These are places that are in the driftless area that are, granite, and they're in the middle of the woods, or they're 1,000-acre farms, right? These things that we have in Wisconsin that are unique to us. And so it sounds like a lot, but I just want to be clear, there's still a challenge there.
It's a lot of work that needs to be done. Wisconsin's a big state.
Right. Geographically, it's a big state, and it's a very unique state in its like there isn't just a plain, so there's a lot of different geography that we have to deal with.
I see. So our geology and topography, I don't know if I'm using the right words.
Yeah, no, it's true.
But that affects it too. I didn't even thought about that.
And the lakes and the bogs, or cranberry bogs, are, you think about all that, it's very challenging to get fiber pulled into some of these areas. And we also have 11 native reservations, native lands in the state that also have to be addressed. So it's just a lot of challenges. The way we're doing it, it's called Internet for All Wisconsin. And we have a team within the Wisconsin Broadband Office that is building maps and doing research and collecting data and trying to identify all of the places that are not connected, because some say they're connected and they're not. Like I talked about, 2/0 is not a connection. And others are connected, but they just want more. And so trying to distinguish between the two, we have a mapping team that's building out some really high quality maps to identify the areas where need is highest. And so we have that happening. We also have, like I said, a governor's advisory task force that we meet with monthly that gives us guidance. We have what is called a stakeholders group of people across the state, people from the United Way that I know you work with, Brianna, and others who are also advising us, and then taking the work that we're doing, sharing it out to the public and saying, does this make sense to you? Does it not? And bringing that back to us and saying, you know, that's really maybe not a good idea. This is a better idea. So we have these advisory groups, and then we have been doing some outreach where we've talked to small groups. We have talked to specific populations, for example, veterans we've spoken with as a group. We have spoken with a large number of farmers across the state. We've spoken with aging populations. We've gone to food banks, all of these different areas to try to say, you know, what would help you the most? And then we've given grants to groups like yours to go out and have community conversations and bring that information back to us and say, this is what our community needs. And we're taking all that information in, and then we're building out a plan, 2 plans, the broadband plan to the equity plan. And then the broadband plan is going into the feds on the 28th of August. And the equity plan will then go out for feedback. Anyone can give feedback on it. And then it will go in probably late October.
So you've talked about this idea of digital equity a little bit. Can you tell me about why is that important? Why should we care about digital equity?
Digital equity is so important.
Yeah.
Right. Because what good does it do if you have access and you don't know how to use it? Or you have access and you're not really sure, you're not using it to its fullest potential. So when we talk about equity as a state, and really within the law that was recently passed, it's the condition in which an individual or community have the information, the technology capacity that is needed to fully participate in society and in the economy of the United States. And so when we talk about that, it's so important that people understand that broadband's almost like electricity or water. Well, not water. Water you don't need electricity to live. But you know what I'm saying? It's how you connect in our economy. It's how you connect in our world. It's how you access information. It's how you make a phone call, right? If you want to call 911, the odds are it's going over fiber somewhere. It's going over broadband, right? So that's how most of our phones work. So think about if you live in an area that doesn't have internet, or in a home that doesn't have internet, and I have spoken to these people in Wisconsin, they can't call 911. They can't get emergency service. I talked to a farmer in northern Wisconsin who got run over by his tractor, and his wife could not get 911 service to him. She had to drive to then drive back. So these are really important things for people. So we need these in our rural areas. We need these inner cities for the kids who couldn't attend school during COVID, right? Everybody has a need, and they're not the same. And so, no, go ahead.
I like how you highlighted that too, of like, I think often when we talk about this, we think about that physical, like we need to lay the fiber, or however the magic of the internet infrastructure works. Not my field, but like I always think about physical, but you also mentioned the like fact that like people need to be able to access it. It might, like, you might have that physical access, but then like what's that next step to getting a phone, or knowing how to use your phone? Like there's so many other pieces that is involved in this work.
And in that equity framework, you think about the people who can't afford a device. So, okay, they've got broadband, but they don't have devices that access it, or they can only use a phone. How do you write a term paper on a phone? right? A number of people who are in technical colleges trying to use a phone to do their work, or the number of people we've spoken to who need to do telehealth, or maybe they have a health device that requires the internet. So many hearing aids now are made to only work when they're connected to the internet. So I talked to this lovely man who had great hearing aids, except when he was not in a service area. So he'd be hearing and then deaf, and then hearing and then deaf. So, right, these quality of life things, and he didn't know how to not, like, what do I do? How do I address that? How do I get my telehealth appointment when all I have is maybe a cell phone and I can't read it? It's too small. How do I pick the right phone? How do I pick the right computer? How do I pick a service that's not going to take advantage of me? Like, all of these are skills we need to provide to people.
So why should churches care about this conversation?
So we have talked to thousands of people across the state, and we have heard again and again that when they are working with technology or trying to learn about technology, they go to their trusted organizations, and churches are one of those trusted organizations that people will go to and get help, right?
Well, I will chime in as a millennial pastor. When I was serving a local church, the amount of like tech help that I offered my members was incredibly high. So
Yes,
I'm sure
you know,
many know that.
right. You go to the people you trust, and that's what you should do in the world today, right? We want people to go to the places they trust. So that's one piece of it. You're the support. And in many communities, you're the support for the community, right? You're a community hub. And the other thing that we've heard again and again is people want to be connected. And many people are homebound. They can't get out. They're alone. They need support. And if we could provide them the ability to do this, what you and I are doing right now, what a difference that makes. It's like that is their connection to the world. It might be the only way they can attend church. And so it doesn't have to be fancy, right? It can be this simple. Two people talking, or it could be just having the ability of them to see the service, to see the pastor, to be engaged in their community, their church community, their broader community, whatever that, the programs, the Bible studies, those types of activities make such a huge difference to someone's mental and physical well-being, right? We can't underestimate how much a human connection keeps a person physically healthy also. So churches have that kind of, I just call it foundation that can lift up their congregation. And broadband is part of that.
I was sharing with Annette before we went live of just, we have all these churches, and some churches have lots of resources and huge digital ministry programs and like staff dedicated just to their online stuff. And then we have all these tiny churches that maybe it's just like the pastor's cell phone sitting on a little stand and that's their live stream. And people are wondering, like, is this really important? Like, should I still be putting this effort in? But in so many of those churches, you don't have 50 people watching the service. You might have one, but that one person is Bev. I swear every church has a Bev. Every church I've served. It's Bev, and Bev hasn't been in the building in 10 years, but now she gets to connect to her church community. And that is so, so important. And so even if it's only one person, there's a huge ministry opportunity there and a relational opportunity there. And maybe even stronger than the church that has 50 people that they don't know who those 50 people are. You've got Bev or whoever it might be.
Well, that's absolutely true. And 80% of Wisconsin is rural. They're not going to have big mega churches or these. That's not our state.
So the Wisconsin Council of Churches is partnered with the United Way of Wisconsin to host some community conversations over the next month. Why are these community conversations so important?
So as I mentioned earlier, the PSC had a team of people that have gone out to speak with populations one-on-one and in small groups to hear the stories, to learn what the need is in Wisconsin. And we've also provided grants for trusted community organizations to go out and continue and build on those conversations and then help inform the work we're doing. And those conversations have made such a difference in our plan.
Mm.
So um, I will admit to some aha moments when talking to people and things that, yeah, I probably should have known, but I just didn't. I didn't think about things like a veteran saying, I want to be able to call any veteran in my area who's alone and disconnected and just have a conversation with them because I know that will make them healthier. We talked to farmers. Oh my gosh, I've learned so much about farming that we did not know that's informing our plan. So for
There's all these
example, we learned
computers in those tractors that we
not
don't
just the
think about.
tractors. Do you know that every cow has a mini chip in them that feeds back what
No.
they eat, how much milk they produce, how healthy they are? They track their health. They
Mm.
have little bands and devices on them. And
No.
we
Yeah.
never would have learned that had we not talked to the people who are out trying to do the work. We should know that people don't have 911 access, but I always thought it fell back on the old phone lines. Those
Mhm.
were shut down in rural areas. They don't have them anymore. And way up in northern Wisconsin, we have to talk to people and find out what their real lived experience is. And that is informing our plan. All of those scenarios I just told you, we are building in goals to address.
So we'll be up, I'll be up north, I'll be in Northwest Wisconsin in the next month having these community conversations. United Way of Wisconsin is covering other parts of the state. And so we'll be sharing through our channels kind of ways for people to show up and to get their voice heard. If people wanted to learn more, what else should they do?
The Public Service Commission has a webpage. It is, I think it's just psc.wi.gov. And on there is a link to broadband. And in there, they can find access to the reports that I mentioned. There's a link where they can give us feedback directly if they prefer to do it that way. That's where the reports will be posted before they're sent and people can provide feedback. Everything that you need to know about the broadband work is on there's a link right on the main page of the PSC. And then also, Brianna, you have my contact information, and please feel free to share that out. People can contact me directly.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was delightful.